Hi everyone, welcome back to the Sports Breakdown once again. So we had to do this Australia versus Sri Lanka. I was keeping on delaying for this for like 1 or 2 days perhaps. So we have brought in Akhila Seneviratne once again after like 3 months. We brought him before for the India versus Sri Lanka review, I think the series review, and I think after a long time we brought him back for this exciting series Australia versus Sri Lanka when Sri Lanka is in need, when they're in economic crisis, Cricket Australia has, I mean, we obviously had test tour two. Obviously, it was there in the schedules before for the future schedules, the three test match series, but to have ODI 2020 series, so it's brilliant for the Sri Lankan cricket right now, and the country with the crisis that is going on. So, thank you so much, Akila, for joining us on the sports breakdown. Good afternoon. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I think I it was going well, and I think I lost the last few seconds of it. I think if you could repeat the question, I think it would be better.
Yeah. I said that we are going through a crisis right now, and I
Yeah.
mean, Australia cricket helped Sri Lanka cricket with the with this. I mean, having this ODI 2020 and Test series. We were supposed to have only a Test series, if I'm not mistaken, because it was scheduled according to the ICC Test Championship in Sri Lanka. I'm not sure about the ODI, but 2020 series, I think it's an additional three-match 2020 series. And yeah, and I said thank you so much for joining the sports breakdown once again. What is
Yeah.
after? Yeah.
Yes, yeah, yeah. That's yeah. I was paying attention to what was being said, and it was only last bit I didn't hear, but yeah, overall, I think it's really great to have a team like Australia, in particular, coming as visitors because yeah, acknowledging that we have an economic crisis, but I think as a team they are definitely well aware of the situation, and I think this series is going to put a lot of give a positive message to the cricketing world, especially that Sri Lanka, despite being in a crisis, is still ready to play cricket, and the fans are still ready to support the teams in a very friendly manner.
Yeah, yeah. So let's go through the teams now. Today, අපි බලනකොට දැන් they've released the playing 11 for both Sri Lanka and Australia. I think, as we know, Pathum Nissanka will be opening with Anushka Gunatilaka, Charit Asalankas there, Kusal Mendis, Bhavanaka Rajapaksa, Dasun Shanaka, waninduhasaranga, Chamika Karunaratne, Dushmantha Chameera, Mahesh Dixon, and Nuwan Tushara. First of all, Akila, are you surprised that Matisha Patiran is not playing with the way that he performed for Chennai Super Kings in the IPL? I know Nuwan Tushar is also a promising bowler, but don't you think that X factor could have come in place of Matisha if he played today? Sri Lanka රානං ඒක හොඳ වේවිද ඔස්ට්‍රේලියා කණ්ඩායම because ඒගොල්ලෝ දන්නෙත් නෑ දැන් mostly I mean Aaron Finch, David Warner, especially facing Matisha Patirana earlier. I mean, in the power play, it's not going to be easy. So, හිතනවාද ඒක වැරදි තැනක් හිතනවාද or otherwise you agree with and want to start playing?
ඇත්තෙන්ම කිව්වොත් අර කිව්වා වගේ දැන් මෙතන අර සර්ප්‍රයිස් ෆැක්ටර් එකක් තියෙනවා. ඒත් මම ඒ ඩිසිෂන් එක ලොකුවට සර්ප්‍රයිස් වෙන්නේ නැති හේතුව තමයි නුවන් තුෂාර එයා කලින් ඔස්ට්‍රේලියාවත් එක්ක ඔස්ට්‍රේලියාදී මැච් එකක් ගහලා තියෙනවා. එක්ස්පීරියන්ස් වයිස් එයාට ඇට්ලීස්ට් අර වන් මැච් එකක් තියෙනවා and මං හිතන්නේ ඕ කියන්නේ රීසන්ට් පර්ෆෝමන්ස් බැලුවොත් දැන් මතීෂ පතිරින කියන්නේ ශ්‍රී ලංකා 19න් 15 කණ්ඩායමත් එක්ක සෙල්ලම් කරලා ඒ IPL එකේ චෙන්නයි සුපර් කිංස් එකට ගහපු ක්‍රීඩකයෙක් ඉන්ජරි රිප්ලේස්මන්ට් කෙනෙක් හැටියට ඒත් අර මට මෙතන පේන්නේ දැන් දැන් මං හිතන්නේ නුවන් තුෂාරව ෆස්ට් ප්‍රෙෆරන්ස් එකට දාලා තියෙන්නේ ඇට්ලීස්ට් එයා ඔස්ට්‍රේලියාවත් එක්ක ඔස්ට්‍රේලියාදී සෙල්ලම් කරපු ෆාස්ට් බෝලර් කෙනෙක්. ඒකයි මං හිතන්නේ දැන් මතීෂ එයා තව මං හිතන්නේ බෝලර් කෙනෙක් හැටියට එයාට අර තව පොඩ්ඩක් අර මම හිතන්නේ ෆයින් ටියුනින් කරන්න තියෙනවා. මොකද සමහරක්ලාට එයා බෝලේ හොඳට දැම්මොත් ඒක අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම විකට් ටේකින් බෝල් එකක් එක්ක බෝල් නැත්තම් LBW වගේ අර පින් පොයින්ට් ඇකියුරසි එක තියෙන නැත්තම් සමහරක් වෙලාවට එයා පොඩ්ඩක් එක්ස්පෙන්සිව් වෙන්න පුළුවන් අර එයාගේ අර ඒ කියන්නේ එයාගේ දැන් කොහොමද කියන්නේ දන්නේ එයාගේ අර බෝල් කරනේදී ලොකු මාජින් ඔෆ් එරර් එකක් තියෙනවා අර හුඟක් වයිඩ්ස් යන්න. ඒක අන්ඩර් 19 වර්ල්ඩ් කප් එකෙත් වුණා. ඉතින් මං හිතන්නේ එයා අර අපිට සමරක් කළාට මතීෂව 3rd T20 එකේ ඩෙබියු කරනවා දකින්න පුළුවන් නුවන් තුෂාර ෆස්ට් 2 මැචස් වල හරියට සෙල්ලම් කරේ නැත්තම්. එතකොට මං හිතන්නේ ඒ හින්දා තමයි මුලින් අර නුවන් තුෂාරව දාලා ඕනම් පස්සේ මතීෂට ඩෙබියු එකක් දෙන්න පුළුවන්.
Yeah. And also coming back to the playing 11 of Sri Lanka, talk about Bhanuka Rajapaksa. Now we saw for Punjab Kings, especially came in number 3, came in number 4. But do you think now playing at number 5, I know for ODIs also he plays at number 5. Don't you think like for, because for Sri Lanka is given a different role, for Punjab Kings is given another role. So do you think Bhanuka can actually bat at 3 and maybe push Asalanka to maybe number 5? Is that possible in a scenario where Sri Lanka, I mean, maybe in the second innings they are chasing a big target. Perhaps they could bring Bhanuka Rajapaksa early, or do you think Bhanuka Rajapaksa is suited at number 5? Because this is a problem with the position, because he played a different role with Punjab Kings, and here he's playing as a finisher kind of role.
Yes, that's correct. Because I think first of all, I think we have to like acknowledge that I think playing in the national team and playing in an IPL can be fairly different because IPL you tend to it's a situational thing. You buy players without necessarily thinking of what position they should be batting in, and then you have to play with whoever you are playing for. But in Sri Lanka, it's based on selection. But at the same time, you still get problems in where you want to place your batters, because sometimes you have really good batters like who are really suitable for the number 3 and number 5. But in this case, it is definitely a positional competing for the position of number 3 slot in Charith Asalanka and Bhanuka Rajapaksa. So in my opinion, I think if we are taking the World Cup sucks, if we are going with the same batting lineup which we did at the World Cup, we have to take in account that Avishka Fernando is not in the squad anymore, so the number 4 position is now being replaced by Kusal Mendis. I would personally like to see. Um, I think if we could be in a situation where like if we see an early wicket of let's say, I think given the chances, I think okay, I think we have to also consider the other batting positions, because personally one of the key things I noticed is I would have preferred Kusal Mendis to open the batting, but situation wise, I think they had to fit in Gunanshu Unitilaka as the opener, and definitely Pathum Nisanka will open. So like we have a situation where we have like three batters who are good at opening, and three batters who are good at the and two batters who are good at the number 2 position, number 3 position. So
Yes.
we might have to experiment a little bit here and there, just to see like who is batting well at where. But in my opinion, I think we should still stick to Charith Asalanka at batting at number 3, because it has been like statistically proven that he bats better there. I think it's okay to keep Bhanuka at number 5 rather than having Charith Asalanka at number 5, um, because we have to like manage with whoever who is there. I think when someone is proven to be performing well in a certain position, it's better not to not to switch. And I think Bhanuka, given his like he can bat at 4 and 5, so he has a range. Charita Saranga, I don't think he offers a lot of range, so I think it's best to keeping at number 3, and maybe float Bhanuka Rajapaksa to 4 or 5 depending on the position. But still, I think I would have preferred Kusal Mendis to open rather than Dhanushka Gunatilaka, for the reason that Dhanushka hasn't necessarily been at his best performance. But given that we are playing in Sri Lanka, you can expect something different. But I see there is a certain uh, mix up in where people should be betting, but I think we can see after today's match and how they perform.
But the other thing to talk about Sri Lankan playing 11, one concern for me is Shamika. He's a star player in the Sri Lankan team. The thing is that he didn't get a he didn't get a single game to play for KKR this season. I know there's Anderson, there are other quality players, Sunil Nanak in that all round section, but Shamika's LPL performance was not that great. I mean, and then India series kind of he didn't perform well. But do you think he can step up at home conditions? I mean, he didn't have a good Indian series. He didn't have a big impact in the LPL except one match for Double Giants. But do you expect him to perform well for Sri Lanka in this series?
It depends exactly on which aspect we are expecting him to perform, because I think as a bowler he hasn't necessarily been a very good wicket taking option. I mean, he has played more matches than he has taken wickets. So which
Yeah.
obviously means, most matches he has played, he has gone wicketless.
Yes.
Mainly in matches where he has played away in from Sri Lanka. But
Mm.
I mean, I think that given the time, that he could show some improvement with. I mean, we have seen legendary Lasit Malinga backing the score. I think the fast bowling, we can see a slightly revamped fast bowling unit once again, like how we did in Australia. I think there is a really
Yeah.
good,
And I think
tactical
they have.
placement in how you bowl your lines and lane. I think Charmika will also take a few pages of Malinga's book in adjusting his
Mm.
line and lane, because we have seen many times that he tries to bowl the exact same way, like bowling a little wide. Tries to bowl
Yeah.
a little wide Yorkers, like textbook Lasit Malinga. I think he kind of thing, even though he doesn't generate a lot of swing. So, in my opinion, I think he would have been a little more effective if he could generate a lot of swing. But it's more like a medium pace mixed with a little bit of
Mm.
slow balls and mostly wide Yorkers. Ideally, it would be best
Yeah.
in the death. But I think at the moment we could put in Chamira to finish off in the death overs.
Mm.
When it comes to betting, there is obviously a tight competition between betting at number seven. I think the situation will change in whether Vanindu or Chamika comes to bat first. But I think I mean, both of them take a couple of balls to get settled, and Wanindu hasn't necessarily been at his best with the bat in the IPL, as he
Yes.
hasn't shared the same success as with the ball. So it's a little bit, a little bit of a concern of who should be batting at number seven. But I think as the team card is concerned, we can expect Wanindu to bat at number seven, and then
Mm.
Chamika at eight.
Yeah.
If the
Yeah.
situation is like we have a, I think when you're looking at how teams have performed, I think Vanindu in particular has performed better in Sri Lanka's innings when we are supposed to bat first rather than chasing.
Mm.
Chamika, on the other hand, we can expect a batting change if Sri Lanka is chasing.
Yeah.
So I think those are the two scenarios. Depending on who is batting first, might force a change in the batting positions.
Hmm. Hmm. I understand. Yeah. And then බලනකොට දැන් දසුන් ශානක දැන් නායක වුණාම එයා හොඳට කරා දැන් recently Indian series and unfortunately IPL contract එකක් හම්බුනේත් නෑ replacement එකක්. I mean lot of rumors were saying yeah either Delhi Capitals or Rajasthan were going to get him with how he impressed in India because එයාගේ his patch of form wasn't that good before this Indian series. එයා හොඳට perform කරා මං හිතන්නේ 124ක් ලකුණු ගත්තා. ඉතින් කොහොම දැන් දසුන් ශානකත් එන්නේ දැන් ගොඩක් කොන්ෆිඩන්ස් එකේ so කොහොමද හිතන්නේ දැන් middle order එක දැන් we were speaking about the middle order about බානුක දසුන් ශානක and sorry about the number 7 position මොකද හිතන්නේ දසුන් ශානකගේ role එක මේ series එකේ do you think he'll go full blaze like in Indian series, or do you think he play his natural game? කොහොමද ඔයා හිතන්නේ ඒක වෙන්නේ කියලා? දසුන් ශානකගේ රෝල් එකයි කැප්ටන්සි එකත්. ඔව්. Oh, yeah. Did you hear what I said, Akhila? Hello, Akhila. What happened?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think you can hear me clearly, right?
yeah. I was
All right.
asking.
So
Dasun.
I
Yeah,
Yeah, so I think one thing we kind of forgot to mention was the his middle order role when playing against Australia in the Australian series this year, and I think a little overshadowed a little bit, but I think he played a slightly important role, especially in the chases. I think I mean that was the match. I first it was the Zimbabwe ODI that kind of hint that that he can bat after his
yeah,
century, and then he went to the Australian series. Played a little bit and a few cameos in 30s, and then he was absolutely brutal in the Indian series. I think that was when he really announced that that he's he's not just he like I think there's a big question on what his role as a captain is. It's whether he should be mostly bowling or batting, but I think we can
yeah,
expect more of batting. So he has shown that he can perform against big teams like Australia or India.
yeah,
So and I think he should stick into that number six position because he's gonna play a very vital role in the middle order.
mm,
He if
yeah,
any given day if he swings hard, he'll just hit you hit. I think he's probably one of the most strongest middle order strikers we have at the moment. So I think when you have a player like that, and especially as a captain, it's a really good confidence booster to the team that
yeah,
your captain can turn a match even if the wickets are down. And I think like there's a big improvements in how he's approaching the game compared to the World Cup and the series we have been playing this year. So I think we can expect him to perform really well with the bat this time. But in terms of bowling, I think what I really like about Dashan Shanaka is that I think whenever a bowler tends to get a bit hit for a few runs, he
yeah,
would take out the ball and fill it, play like a filler role. So
mm,
I think we can expect in case things go a little bit not in Sri Lanka's way, to see him bowl about 2 overs and probably possibly take a wicket kind of thing. So we expect him that, and of course he's really absolutely
because he can play
know,
that Hardik Pandya role as we see in India also in
yes,
the IPL. He bowled those 4 overs. He contributed the bat. Plus, he contributed in the most important stage, especially in the final, bowling those 4 overs. So I
yes,
think Dasun Shanaka has that potential as a bowler, but the thing is that yeah, overs එච්චර bowl කරන්නේ. I mean, he's giving others to bowl ඔක්කොම 5 bowlers and he doesn't take the opportunity and bowl. That's the issue. I don't know why Dasun Shanaka is doing that. That's
yes.
bit of a concern, but I mean, he has the potential to bowl 3 or 4 overs at a proper economy and get wickets as well.
I think I have a slightly different point of view. I think compared to most of the bowlers, I think given I think Vanidu, given that he is a main strike spinner,
Yeah,
Dasun Chanaka might possibly like he's possibly considering his fielding factor because he saves a lot of runs and takes really good
yeah,
short mid wicket catches. So I think given I think sometimes when you're a bowler who is also an exceptional fielder, there is also a chance of am I going to bowl this over? Am I going to take a catch in this over? So I think
mm,
Dashun Chanaka is mostly concerned about his fielding, but he would bowl if the things are not going our way. So I think he's also considering his fielding factor as well, which is probably why he doesn't bowl all of his 4 overs.
yeah. I kind of understand what your point on that. Yeah, And we come to the spinners. Before going to Australia, we'll talk about the spinners because both Wanindu Hasaranga and Manish Tikshna has impressed us in the IPL. Both of them are doing well. Wanindu Hasaranga just 1 wicket off the purple cap of Yuzvendra Chahal, getting 26 wickets for RCB, which is I didn't expect that from the beginning of the season. He'll make a big impact in his first full season. And Mahesh Dixon was as impressed, and Dhoni even has given credits to Mahesh Dixon. I mean, I thought after the first three matches, yeah, එයාට ප්ලේස් එකක් හම්බ වෙන්නේ නැති පාටක් තියෙනවා because I mean Santner ගොඩක් රස් කරා but I mean ultimately he got that chance, he proved it, got a 4 wicket haul. So ඔගේ අදහස් මොකද්ද මේ දෙන්න මේ දගපන්දු දෙන්නම? ඔව්.
ඔව්. මං හිතන්නේ දැන් මහීෂ් තීක්ෂණ ගත්තම එයාගේ රෝල් එක විශේෂයෙන්ම අර එක එන්ඩ් එකක් අර ටයිට් කර ඒ කියන්නේ එයා ටයිට් කරන එක. ඒ කියන්නේ එයා ගොඩක් රන්ස් ලීක් වෙන්න දෙන්නේ නැති එක. එතකොට එහෙම බෝල් කරාම එතකොට සාමාන්‍ය හොඳ ස්පිනර්ස් දෙන්නෙක් බෝල් කරද්දී එක්කෙනෙක් ඒ කියන්නේ එක්කෙනෙක් ටයිට් බෝල් කරලා අනිත් එතකොට ප්‍රෙෂර් එක හැදුනාම අනිත් කෙනාට විකට් එක ගන්න chance එක ගොඩක් වැඩි. එතකොට සාමාන්‍ය මහීෂ් තීක්ෂණ ගත්තම එයා ගොඩක් ඒ කියන්නේ වයින්දුරු හසරංග තරම් විකට් ටේකින් අර විකට් ටේකින් අර ඒ කියන්නේ ඔප්ෂන් එකක්ම නෙමෙයි ඔප්ෂන් එකක් තමයි. ඒ වුණාට වනිදුගේ chance එයාගේ විකට්ස් ගන්න chance එක වැඩි. මං හිතන්නේ එයාගේ අර බෝල් කරන ඒ ස්ටයිල් එකයි එයාගේ ලයින් ලෙන්ත් එකම ගත්තම මං හිතා එතකොට අර අනිවාර්යෙන් මහීෂ් තීක්ෂණගේ වැඩේ අර වනිදුට අර එයාට සපෝට් කරන එක. මං හිතන්නේ අර එයාගේ ඒ රෝල් එක හොඳට කරනවා. අර සමහරක් වෙලාවට ලක්‍ය කර විකට් එකක් ගන්නවා. අර මේ මිස් හිට්ස් වලින් විශේෂයෙන්ම මේ මහීෂ් ගොඩක් වෙලාවට විකට්ස් ගන්නෙ. මිස් හිට් එතකොට අර එක්ක බෝල් නැත්තම් අර මේ කැචර්ස් වලින්. වනින්දු එයා ගොඩක් වෙලාවට try කරන්නේ බෝල්ඩ් අවුට් බෝල් නැත්තම් LBW කරලා අර ගූග්ලිස් වලින් විකට්ස් ගන්න. එතකොට වනින්දු එයා අනිවාර්යෙන්ම 7th over එකකින් ඉඳන් බෝල් කරනවා. මහීෂ් ඕන්නම් පවර් ප්ලේ එකේ ඕවර්ස් එකක් දෙකක් බෝල් කරා. හැබැයි සිටුේෂන් එකට අපි ආව දාන්න පුළුවන් විශේෂයෙන්ම ඇරොන් ෆින්ච් වගේ ප්ලේයර් කෙනෙක්. යා ලෙග් ස්පින් එකක් ඒ කියන්නේ අවේ ස්පිනින් වලට යා එච්චරම හොඳට ප්ලේ කරන්නේ නැහැ. ඉතින් මං හිතන්නේ නැත්තම් වෝනටත් උනත් ඕන්නම් ඒක අපි සිටුේෂන් එකට ආව දාන්න පුළුවන්. නැත්තම් මං හිතන්නේ අර මිඩල් ඕවර්ස් වලින් අර රන්ස් ටයිට් කරන්න මහීෂ්ව දාන එක වඩා සුදුසුයි කියලායි හිතෙන්නේ.
But do you think Wanindu Hasaranga can perhaps bowl in the power play just 1 over perhaps behind, or do you think he's suited to bowl just after the power play? Do you think maybe 1 over in the power play and the 3 overs maybe in the middle overs, or do you think he should bowl the 4 overs once the ball gets a bit old, and perhaps straight up the power play for him to bowl once the restrictions are over, the two fielders I mean especially in the power play when the two fielders outside the 30-yard circle and the restrictions are over? Do you think then Mangasaranga should come into play, or do you think he should get at least 1 over in the power play to make an impact?
If I think we can experiment that if Australia is chasing in particular, because I think we could we can do that if let's say we are leading after the 5th or 6th over and we don't have a wicket. I think and if we are really bold enough to use Wanindu Hasaranga on especially like Aaron Finch, I think that could prove a good wicket taking option more than Mahesh Tikshana, because I think we have seen that Aaron Finch has been particularly weak against Wanindu Hasaranga's leg spin. We saw that in the previous series. I think he got out 3 times when you're considering the World Cup, and 2 times in the last time's Australia series. So 3 times he has been out very cheaply on to Wanindu Hasaranga. It's either bowled or LBW. So I think for tactical change we could do that if Australia is chasing and we don't have a wicket by the fifth over.
I agree. Yeah. So I think we spoke a lot on Sri Lanka. We'll come back to Sri Lanka once we talk about the matchups. Let's come to Australia because they are the reigning 2020 World Cup champions. They're very, very strong side coming up to Sri Lanka this time. Very strong team in all three formats, especially the Sri Lankan batsman to face Stark, Hazelwood. Hazelwood has been in brilliant form. But first, we'll talk about the batting. I mean, the batting seems to be very strong, except for Steven Smith. I mean, Steve Smith has proven before, but still, I mean, he could be the weakling for this Australia batting order. But seeing these names, especially Finch has been struggling a bit in the IPL, but Warner, Middlemarsh, Maxwell, Stoinis, Wade, they've all been playing in the IPL. I mean, Wade has just won with Gujarat Titans. So how do you think now I mean, especially these batsmen, not knowing, I mean, they're coming after 6 years, obviously, to Sri Lanka to play in these conditions, but they've been playing the IPL sort of similar conditions. But what do you think? I mean, especially Glenn Maxwell has a good record against Sri Lanka. So, your thoughts on this Australian playing 11 to Sri Lanka this time?
Yeah, I if I were the Australian, I think there is definitely I can see a I think a tactical change in putting Maxwell up ahead of Steven Smith, mainly because Maxwell has been like really good against Sri Lanka in Sri Lanka,
Yeah,
and Smith is not the fastest start and tends to go a bit on the runner ball each. So I think they have identified to put Maxwell ahead of him in this case, because I think if we look, I think Steven Smith came after Marsh and then Maxwell. Maxwell mostly like he would bat rather in the middle order, like from the once the third wicket is down, but they have Maxwell has been given a promotion up.
mm,
So I think batting wise, I think for quite obvious reasons, the top three are like it will be fixed. Stoinis, as usual, will play the play Dasun Chanaka's role in a permanent number six position, and as an all rounder, we have seen him like being a really good finisher. Matthew Wade also has shown potential as a finisher, especially in like really tight situations. I think his best match is how he cleared Shahin Shah Afridi in the semi-finals
semi-final.
that put them through. It was like a really slow start, but I think on a given day, if especially bowling against fast bowlers, where it is like if he can really innovate himself, and but I see that Stoinis will definitely be a very strong content. He I think more than Max. I think Sri Lanka will be more concerned in trying to get Maxwell out, but could potentially forget about Stoinis,
Stoinis.
because Stoinis is more of the finisher here. So as long as Stoinis remains, we'll definitely have a really tough time, especially getting the late wickets in. So I think so. Overall, they have a really strong batting lineup, and they
Yeah.
have made a few changes that could potentially hurt us.
Yeah. Sportbit here has asked, if Finch fails
Yeah.
as a batsman once again, do you think Australia should sack him? Because Australia already has a lot of players whom they can appoint captaincy. What do you think? Do you think they'll allow this year? Perhaps could be Finch's year and maybe give it to another player to captain, or do you think if he underperforms in the upcoming series, they'll appoint a new captain before the 2020 World Cup? How do you see it going? Yeah. Think have I got stuck? Uh, Akila, can you hear me? Yeah, I think we were just talking about Aaron Finch. I don't know whether I lost my connection or whether it was Akila. Would wait. I think it was his connection. I think. Yeah, yeah. I think something to do with his connection, sport bit. He lost his connection. I think he'll come back. Yeah, I think we were talking about Australia. I'll continue a bit until he comes. So we were just basically talking about the batting, about Steven Smith batting above Glenn Maxwell, and I definitely think Glenn Maxwell will make a big impact in this upcoming tour against Sri Lanka. I think he joined again. Yeah, wait.
Hello,
Okay.
I'm really sorry to
Yeah, yeah.
Pawan
I think
and
we lost a bit.
viewers because we just
Yeah.
just experienced a power cut and came back with the backup
Okay. No problem.
Wi-Fi.
No problem.
So I think the question was about Finch
Finch.
being
Yeah, Finch being a
dropped
batsman once again.
for
Yeah.
his poor batting.
Mm.
I Yes, I think like I said, like Finch being a specialist batter hasn't I mean, it is really decisive time frame because I think being a captain and winning matches isn't necessarily going to secure his place,
Mm.
and and I think he has to really I think really step up with his batting game. I think he said that he's working on the several few issues.
Mm.
I don't think that they would with a World Cup coming in hand. I don't think they would risk it by appointing a new captain at this time. So if anything happens, I think it would be only after the World Cup.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. But coming back, Akhila, now to the Australian spinners, because this time they don't have Adam Zampa. They have Ashton Agar and Mitchell Swepson, who's not playing. They still may be able to get 2 overs from Maxwell, like he's a part-time spinner, but we know the impacts that he does with passing as well. But how do you think Ashton Agar will do in this series? He doesn't have much IPL experience. I know his economy is very good. When you see the last 2 years stats, Ashton Agar has actually proven to be a good quality spinner. Compete. I know Adam Zampa is like that X Factor. He performed brilliantly in the 2020 World Cup. But Robert Ashtonega, that left arm orthodox spinner, how do you think the Sri Lankan batsman will read him? Because especially in the Australian series, he was really, really good in Australia when Sri Lanka was playing against Australia. So in return, I think they've given Adam Zampa rest. But how do you think Ashtonega, being a lone specialist spinner, and Sri Lanka has two specialist spinners, how do you think he will make an impact as a lone spinner to this Australian playing 11?
Yeah, I think it's mainly because Ashton Aga is a left arm spinner, and Sri Lanka in particular have shown weakness against left arm spinners. And even with Ashton Aga, he's like we saw Sri Lanka struggling with him in the previous series. So it's purposely done to introduce a left arm spinner here. And Ashton
Yes.
Ega has, like he really ties down the runs, and it can be a very decisive factor, especially when chasing. In case we are not scoring enough runs and he goes below an economy below 5 or 6, it can be a very big turning point for the Australians, and that can I think we might play a little too cautiously because he's left arm spinner. So I think it's part of the game. You sometimes you don't always have to take wickets in order to win a T20 match, because you can
Yeah.
because in my opinion, compared to all the bowlers here, I think Aga is the bowler that Australia will look to in order to create the dot ball pressure. So that's
Yeah.
why I think he that is creating a dot ball pressure is, in my opinion, the way he would be mostly used for.
Mm, I agree. Yeah. And coming fast forward, this is where Sri Lanka could struggle. Especially, Dhanushka Gunatilaka in particular, because Mitchell Stark is very good with his Yorkers, his bouncers, two left-handers especially. So how and Josh Hazlewood has been superb, especially for RCB. I know he leaked runs for 1 or 2 matches. That happens to any bowler, but Hazelwood has been brilliant, phenomenal in the last 6 or 7 months. So how do you think with these two quality pace bowlers? Sri Lanka will be able to face. I mean, especially the openers, Pathum Nisank and Anushka Gunathilake, they had an issue with these bowlers in the Australian leg, but these were pace friendly conditions. But these are, I mean, our tracks usually are spin friendly, but still Stark is known to adapt to any conditions, and he did well last time also 6 years back. So how do you think this time with the experience that Mitchell Stark, Josh Hazelwood has, how do you think they'll make an impact to the Sri Lankan batting order, especially getting early wickets?
I think for Stark, I think his main attack would be like trying to swing the ball into the batter, and he would be, I think that's his key. That's his key strength. Like try to swing it into the right hand, or when it comes to like or his. I think he bowls more better Yorkers than Hazelwood, and I think
Yeah,
Hazelwood is. I think
kind of a
he's
swing
more
bowler, yeah, in
towards
swinger
getting
bowler,
his
yeah,
being a right arm bowler. He bowls consistently on the slightly outside of stump line, and he also creates as a fast bowler, decent dot ball pressure, and he's I think the highest ranked T20 bowler as a fast
yeah,
bowler which Australia have, because Zampa is currently at 4 and he's not playing. So I think, in my opinion, if Stark generates a lot of swing, he can be deadly. Otherwise, it would be a Hazelwood who would attack more. But also Kane Richardson very fast, but might not necessarily be as a pinpoint. He might not necessarily be as accurate as Hazelwood, but at the same time, I think this they are pretty much of a deadly three or fast bowlers.
sorry, yeah,
We,
yeah, I'm back, sorry for the,
no worries, no worries.
yeah, you were telling about Josh Hazelwood, right? Yeah,
Yeah, that's right. I think Josh Hazelwood would be like the number one fast bowler. Second would be Stark if he generates swing.
mm,
Kane Richardson, I mean, may not be as deadly as the other two, but can be a pretty decent wicket taking option, possibly in the later stages of the game.
yeah. And we'll talk about one more aspect before coming to both the teams and their matchups, especially Marsh, because he has been very good, especially in the last 2 years, especially in 2021. He had a brilliant season, especially he's that number three position was the issue for Australia, but he has cemented his place by performing well in certain matches, especially in the West Indies. Then I think in India series he performed well. Bangladesh he performed well. Then he did well in the IPL time. He performed well for the first time, I think, with the bat. So how little Marsh would be, because I think he could be the one actually that could go under the radar and could perform well actually this time. Seeing how he's been, I know David Warner is also there, but more than that, I mean, Sri Lankan bowlers could tend to neglect Marsh because he's been good against spin, he's been good against pacers. We saw that in the IPL as well. We've seen that in 2021, even in the World Cup. So how good has Marsh been, especially last 2 years, especially cementing the number three, because the number three was that concern for Australia, but it seems that he has cemented it and has grabbed it with both the hands. So your thoughts about Marsh's progress in the last 1 or 2 years?
Yes, I think it's pretty obvious. Like even his success at the World Cup, and especially performing really well in the big stage. I don't think anybody else other than Michelma should be playing at the number three position. I think his biggest advantage is being like he you can he whether the team has scored a lot of runs or has lost the first wicket in the very first ball itself. Yeah, he is really good in handling any situation, and he doesn't necessarily go to strike hard in the very first ball itself. He
Yeah,
would take his time, and I think one important thing I forgot to mention. I think I did a dot ball comparison last time on how Australia managed. So they have like a dot ball percentage of like 30%,
mm,
like 30 or under. simply because they are really good at rotating the strike. Rotating the strike has been Sri Lanka's really if I remember, I wish I had that stat, but
Achilles heel.
if in the last series Sri Lanka scored more sixes and more fours, whereas the dot ball percentage was close to 45%, whereas
Mm,
for Australia they hit less boundaries, but they were better in rotating the strikes. So it's always the having batters who know when to hit and when to run the single. So Mitchell, Marsh, and I think even players like Maxwell and Steven Smith in particular, they are used to having to handling pressure situations. Might not strike a lot, but they will ensure that their dot ball percentage is really really low and try to hit a single in every possible location.
mm,
So basically, yes, I think Mitchell Marsh doesn't necessarily play a lot of dot balls. He will play a lot of singles, and I
yeah.
think Sri Lanka might definitely miss him out because of his like he he appears to not make a very significant difference. When we look at the way he has played, he has been a really good anchoring role, especially for the Australian team, and uh, and he will finish to the end.
Mm, yeah. So we'll come to the matchups now. Akhil, I think we spoke a lot about both the teams. Who do you think will be the key matchup, especially in the power play middle overs, death bowlers for you? Which of the batsmen and bowlers do you think is going to be the key matchup where it's really stage for whoever is going to win this match? Who do you think will be those key matchups for especially today's match and even for the 2020 series for you?
Yeah, so I can't really say that this person is, it's like a this person was this person kind of scenario, but I'll explain this way. So I think, in my opinion, we have a better chance of getting Aaron Finch out first. So
Yeah,
it would be a contest between how well Dushmanta Chamira bowls versus how Aaron Finch bats. So that will
yeah,
be the first matchup. And then, if not, like, that is, in my opinion, the first matchup. Second
mm.
would be Maxwell versus waninduhasaranga. I think will wait until Awan joins again.
I'm sorry.
Sorry for the
Once again,
issues. We'll see how
yeah,
it goes.
my internet connection would be
Yeah,
broken.
I
Yeah,
understand. So I was saying that Maxwell versus Vanidu will be a very interesting matchup because they were teammates in the IPL, and I think definitely Maxwell has done his homework against Vanidu really well. So given that, I think it would be really interesting matchup, especially how Maxwell is going to play against Vanidu Hasaranga. And
yeah,
as a third matchup, I think, in a batting perspective, it would be Patum Nissanka versus Mitchell Stark.
mm,
Simply because we saw Patum Nissanka being really good against Stark in Australia, and
yeah,
I think now the conditions are different, so it would be I think it would be interesting to see how Patum Nisanka faces Mitchell Stark in the opening overs.
mm,
Those are my three key matchups, which I'm very excited to see, and I think
yeah,
either of those, because we are looking at first we are looking at Dushman Shamira versus Aaron Finch as a captain's perspective on the Australian side, and given that Chamir is really good in taking wickets in the very first over itself,
yeah,
so there's a 50-50 chance of that happening. Then we are looking at Maxwell versus Vanidu Asananga because Vanidu is our best spin bowler, and Maxwell, being a teammate, has done his homework well, very
yeah,
likely. And
yes,
third being Patum Nisanga versus Mitchell Stark because Patum Nisanga is a highest rated batter, and that will be a contest in the opening overs as well, just like we are seeing Dushmanta Chamira versus Aaron Finch. So it's a it's that kind of scenario. So those are the three key matchups I'm interested to see, and whoever wins
Mm.
there is probably going to put a lot of pressure on the team.
Yeah. I hope it doesn't rain first of all. The weather doesn't seem to be good. But I had just asked one question from you
Yeah.
before coming to the comment section. How much of an impact will it be for Australia without their head coach Andrew McDonald? Because we know he tested positive for COVID-19, and then I think he has to stay out 7 days quarantine before coming to Sri Lanka. If I'm mistaken, I think he'll miss the T20 series. But how much of an impact will it be? I don't know who the assistant coach of Australia is, but do you think it will be a major impact for Australia? Because but I know these players are quality players. They don't need necessarily a coach, but do you think it will start to make a small impact for this Australian team, or do you think this is just like a just a small thing for Australia for this Australian team?
Well, given that they are like more experienced players than the Sri Lankans on average, I think at the moment we can see them manage without the coach, but at the same time they are playing in slightly unfamiliar conditions. So the fact that they are playing in Sri Lanka is a decisive factor here, because if it were playing in Australia, whether they had their coach or not might not necessarily make a huge of an impact. But since they are playing under Sri Lanka conditions, and it's we tend to play really well there, I think there could be a possible impact in how they strategize their games ahead in case they don't play well today. But if they do
Yeah,
play well today, they are very likely to repeat that success in the future matches. But if they lose today, it can be a pretty big concern because they don't have their head coach and they are playing in unfamiliar
mm,
conditions, and going into the series with a defeat, so that can upset the Australians a lot. So in that sense, we have to win today's match for certain in order to have any hopes of winning the series, because we're going to play tomorrow as well. And
yeah,
it's winning today will be really important. We have a question.
yeah. You just
uh
said this is the strongest 2020 squad in terms of skill a Sri Lankan team has put forward.
I mean, in my opinion, it's really hard to say because there are noticeable changes that have been made. I don't think we are necessarily the strongest, simply for the fact that, like, one thing is like we are lacking a left arm bowler again.
Mm. But
That
we have Praveen
having
Javikrama,
a
no? We have Praveen Javikrama, but I don't think we can play Praveen Javikrama when we have Teacher and Asnang. That's the issue.
Yeah. We are, I think, bowling diversity wise, we are lacking a left arm bowler. Like, even for a left part time, we don't have a single left arm bowler
Mm,
that
mm,
is there. And also, when it comes to, I mean, we have good batters, but I'm very sure that they'll be struggling a little bit because they might have to be shuffled here, there, everywhere. So there'll be a lot of experimenting going on. Batting wise, I think we're okay, but I think. I mean, I'm not saying that we are bad or anything like that, but I think we're having to make certain positional changes. It could potentially change the way how we play the game. And
yeah.
I feel that we don't have like 100% established players in their respective positions, so we are still at that experimenting stage. So we have good players, but they
Mm,
haven't everyone hasn't established themselves in playing in those positions. So we
oh,
kind of have a strong side, but as a team, I think there are certain changes that will have to be made there, depending on the situation. So, and they still kind of need experience. So, I mean, hopefully, before the World Cup, they can figure out those positional changes and see who fits where. So
mm, yeah, yeah.
that's something I would say.
Mm. අන්තිම question එකක් අහමු. What do you think the predictions මොකක්ද හිතන්නේ මේ 2020 series එකේ මොකක්ද හිතන්නේ වෙන්නේ කියලා? What are your predictions for this series?
මං හිතන්නේ දැන් අපිට ඒ කියන්නේ අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම ඕස්ට්‍රේලියා හොඳට මං හිතන්නේ ඕස්ට්‍රේලියන් සයිඩ් එක බැලුවම ඒගොල්ලෝ ගොඩක් අර බැටිං හෙවි සයිඩ් එකක් වගේ නම් කරලා තියෙනවා ශ්‍රී ලංකන් කන්ඩිෂන්ස් මත. එතකොට මං හිතන්නේ මේ අවස්ථාවේදී අපි බෝලිං පැත්තෙන් උපරිම සාධාරණයක් ඉෂ්ට කරන්න ඕනේ අපි බෝලර්ස්ලා. මොකද අපිට ඒගොල්ලන්ව අර රන්ස් වලින් ටයිට් කරුවොත් අපිට අපේ කන්ඩිෂන්ස් වලින් චේස් කරන්න හොඳ අවස්ථාවක් තියෙනවා. ඉතින් අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම අද අපිට තරංගය දිනන්න පුළුවන් වෙනවා අපි මුලින් චේස් කරොත්. මොකද ඔස්ට්‍රේලියා ඉතින් ඒගොල්ලෝ කියන්නේ පළවෙනි පාර්ට් ලංකාවේ මැච් එක ගාලකින් පස්සේ ගහන එකේ අනිතර කියමුකෝ අපිට රන්ස් 150ට වඩා අඩුවෙන් try කරොත් අපිට දිනන්න මේ හොඳ chance එකක් තියෙනවා. ඒත් අපි හොල්ඩින් බැට් කරොත්. because සාමාන්‍ය ඔස්ට්‍රේලියා වගේ ටීම් එක chasers ලේසියෙන් ඒගොල්ලෝ පාර දින්නේ නැහැ. ඒක අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම අපි ෆස්ට් බැට් අපි ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ ෆස්ට් බැට් එක දුන්නොත් අපි සෑහෙන ප්‍රෙෂර් එකක් දාන්න පුළුවන්. අපි ෆස්ට් ගේම් එකකින්ම දින්නොත් දැන් හෙටක් ගහන එකේ එතකොට සමහරක් වෙලාවට අර mentally coming in from a defeat අපිට අර එතකොට අපි හෙට තරංගයක් දිනුවා. එතකොට අපි එතනින් සීරීස් එක දිනුම්. එතන අද තරංගය දිනන එක සෑහෙන්න වටිනවා අපිට මේ විසිටර්ස්ලා වශයෙන් ප්‍රෙෂර් එකක් දාන්න. ෆස්ට් ගේම් එක දිනන එක වඩාත් හොඳයි සෙකන්ඩ් ගේම් එක දිනලා කම්බැක් එකක් ගන්නට වඩා. ඉතින් මට එහෙම හිතලා මං හිතන්නේ අපිට ෆස්ට් ශ්‍රී ලංකා ෆස්ට් මැච් එක දින්නොත් අපිට සීරීස් එකම දිනන්න පුළුවන් හොඳ chance එකක් තියෙනවා.
Yeah. So we'll stop over there. So thank you so much, Akhila Karata. I mean, do follow his Instagram account as well, Akhila Seneviratne. And do check the sidelines and Sri Lanka posts both on Facebook and on Instagram as well, because he does a lot of content, not only on cricket, he does on posts as well. I mean, other people help him to write those articles, and especially he writes the articles for cricket. But thank you so much, Gorak Istuti Akhila Adata. I mean, it's great because I was trying to figure out how to do the Sri Lanka versus Australia preview, and I think you did a perfect job for that. Thank you so much.
Thank you once again for having me here. It was a nice discussion. So yeah, well, let's hope for the best and see a possible series win.
Yeah, hopefully Sri Lanka will know. So please to subscribe to the post breakdown, like, comment, and share this video as we come on to the next video. So thank you so much, guys, and see you in the next video. I try to do a vlog of the match. If I go into the match today, I'll see if I can vlog it from the match and perhaps put it on my channel as well. So we'll see how that goes. But thank you so much to everyone and whoever commented also, and see you in the next video. Thank you so much. See you guys.
Thank you.